The tragedy of the Naira.
The tragedy of Nigeria began in 1986 when we did the structural adjustment program. When we were persuaded to devalue our currency every week for 32 years. When I went to school, and many of you are here, the Naira was $1.50.
In 1986, a young Nigerian walked into a bank. He has 100 Naira in his pocket. At that time, the money could exchange for almost $100 at official rate. He could buy imported goods, pay school fees, and still have money left. He had no idea that a few decades later, he could not even buy a bread. This is the story of how the Naira fell. You see, there was a time when Nigerian currency was the strongest in Africa. By mid-1970s, Nigeria, 1 Naira was worth more than $1. Oil money was coming into the country. Government was spending at record levels. To the extent that we even got the name Giant of Africa. The future looked bright. But beneath that prosperity, a dangerous problem was actually growing quietly. Nigeria has fallen in love with oil. Agriculture has been neglected, factories were neglected, manufacturing was neglected. The country increasingly imported what it could have produced itself. The irony is that before the oil boom, Nigeria was agricultural powerhouse during the 1960s. Before 1970, agricultural products accounted for roughly 85% of the country's exports. North was producing groundnut, the West was producing cocoa, the East was exporting palm produce like palm oil, palm kernel. And before oil took over, these commodities earned us foreign exchange that could sustain the economy. Then, crude oil changed everything. Following the Civil War and the global oil boom in 1970s, oil rapidly replaced agriculture as Nigeria's dominant export. Within a few years, crude oil has grown to account to roughly 85 to 95% of Nigerians' earning. Nigeria has become an oil-dependent country. For a while, everything seems to be going well, until one day, the oil money stopped. In the early 1980s, global oil prices collapsed. Nigeria's national income fell drastically. Overnight, foreign reserves disappeared. Government revenue collapsed. Nigeria was borrowing more to finance spending. Dollar became scarce. Inflation surged to about 20 to 25%. The country entered its first major post-independent economic crisis. Nigeria had reached a dangerous crossroad. The government had two choices: continue defending the Naira or devalue it. At that time, Nigeria was under the military government of General Muhammadu Buhari. His administration rejected the proposal from the IMF and the World Bank to devalue Naira, arguing that doing so would worsen the suffering of ordinary Nigerians. And then, everything changed. On the 27th of August 1985, Buhari was overthrown in a military coup led by General Ibrahim Babangida, a man who had previously played a role in Buhari's rise to power. Babangida inherited an economy in a severe distress. Nigeria desperately needed foreign loans, but international lenders demanded economic reform before providing any financial assistance. The IMF and the World Bank proposed what became known as the Structural Adjustment Program, SAP. The goal, according to its supporter, was to restructure and diversify Nigeria's economy after years of dependence on oil and imports. The program includes devaluation of the Naira, removal of the fuel subsidy, trade liberalization, and many more. Babangida now faced a difficult decision: accept the program and devalue your currency, or reject it and continue to struggle with an economy that was already sinking. Buhari had already rejected this proposal. However, Babangida chose a different path. On the 1st of July 1986, Nigeria officially introduced the Structural Adjustment Program. The government announced the Naira is overvalued. Market forces should determine its value. This marked the beginning of one of the biggest turning points in Nigeria's economic history. The Naira quickly lost its value from 1 Naira to $1 to 2 Naira to 4 Naira to 8 Naira to 10 Naira. It kept falling. For an ordinary Nigerian, the effects were immediate. Imported goods became far more expensive. Factories that are dependent on imported raw materials struggled to survive. Many businesses closed, thousands lost their job, inflation accelerated. Many believed the pain would be temporary. Well, it wasn't. The decline had just begun. Throughout the 90s and beyond, the Naira continued to weaken. To 9 Naira, to 22 Naira, to 15 Naira, to 18 Naira, then hundreds. And eventually well over 1,000 Naira to the US dollar in the 2020s. Every major devaluation reduced the purchasing power of ordinary Nigerian. Salary rarely kept pace. Savings lost value. The middle class gradually shrank. Businesses struggled with rising production costs. Millions of Nigeria fell into poverty. But the tragedy of the Naira is not simply that the currency lost its value. Currency has recovered before. The real tragedy is that Nigeria repeatedly had the opportunity to avoid this outcome. Every oil boom brought in billions of dollars into Nigeria. Yet every crisis exposed the same structural weakness. Over-dependence on crude oil, heavily reliance on imports, weak manufacturing, poor infrastructure, inconsistent economic policies, and most especially, corruption. The Naira did not collapse in just a single day. It did not fall because of one president. It did not begin in 2023, nor in 2019. Its decline began decades earlier, when Nigeria became wealthy from oil, but failed to build an economy capable of thriving without it. In many ways, the story of the Naira is the story of modern Nigeria itself. A nation blessed with extraordinary wealth, natural wealth, repeatedly presented with opportunity to change course, yet repeatedly returned to the very same crossroad.
They came here, persuaded some brilliant men from Harvard and the World Bank that weekly devaluation was wonderful. 32 years of devaluing your currency until we hit 527. And they were still telling us that the Naira was still overvalued. That brought poverty, misery upon us.